I think the first time I hammered on something was probably when I was 21 or 2 years old. I think passion is the number one thing. I think focus is a very important thing. Like all businesses, and especially ours, it's a continuous learning process.
Welcome to Madison Auction. Today we're having afternoon chat with our CEO and auctioneers, Mr. Sam Ling. Sam, you are the very first auctioneer in this house. You trained me and Patrick. You have a lot of fans, do you know that? They ask me a lot of questions about you. So
Really?
Today we're gonna talk about you. So when did you start auctioning?
Oh, quite some time ago. I apprenticed with some small UK auction houses 30, 40 years ago.
Wow.
And I was given the opportunity to learn about, both front and back of the house. And then I think the first time I hammered on something was probably when I was 21 or 2 years old on a late English gentleman estate.
So 30, 40 years ago, what made you stick to this industry for so long?
Well, I've not practiced as a full-time auctioneer until we started Madison Auctions, but I've been sort of working with different houses across Asia, improvising in, various smaller auctions in London, in Los Angeles, for both charity and commercial work. But since we started Madison, it has been developed into quite a fine career.
Since you have such a long experience in the industry, I would imagine that you have some very memorable auctioning experience.
Oh, what was interesting was actually during our first auction, there was a lot of special whiskey, individual bottling by one of our top consignors. And it was very actively bidded by everyone in the room and online. So it was one of the most spectacular 3-bottle sets of Macallan individual bottling whiskey that we've ever sold. And that was quite an interesting and memorable experience for me.
Speaking of the online auction, I would imagine that 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there was no online bidder. The tech wasn't this advanced, right? So what was it like auctioning back then?
30, 40 years ago, all the bidders were sitting right in front of you. There were telephone bidders, but by volume, I think 80% of the bids comes from people sitting in front of the auctioneers. Today, we probably are getting 40, 50% of the active bidders in front of us.
Yes.
And we receive bids from all over the world. Technology has definitely changed the way we work. It's making our job a lot more efficient, and it's helping us to grow our business much more substantially.
Well, we built our own bidding platform in 2019, and luckily we have our app, which is very easy to use. A lot of bidders
I
based on that.
actually receive a lot of positive comments from our bidders, clients, consigners, because people can keep track of what's going on live and with a lot of historical data. In the old days, we received phone calls from people, how much did we sell that a week ago or 2 years ago? And then sometimes it takes a week to look it up. Now, 5 seconds. So
yeah, it's very easy.
Great job.
Thank you. Team effort. What is the key quality that an auctioneer should have?
I think passion is the number one thing. Both you and Patrick are very passionate about our specific domains today. Especially Patrick is recognized expert in the wine and spirit industry. And you yourself brings with a good resume of winemaking and client servicing. So these are the important qualities of what I think is required in a good auctioneer, to be passionate and really have a strong grip of the domain that we're focusing on.
A lot of times when I talk to bidders, the conversation could go so wide. I would be like speechless. I don't know how to converse with them because it would be out of my topic. But when I go travel, when we have meetings with you, it seems like you can talk about anything and everything, and you're always so energetic. How do you keep that?
Hamburger and coffee. But jokes aside, I think, as long as you walk in a meeting prepared and you understand both the consignor or the potential buyer's requirement, it's not that difficult to strike up the conversation.
Then, still a lot of people, they are so curious about auction house or being the auctioneer. For the new ones coming, or for us as my auctioneer mentor, what's your advice?
Well, I think focus is a very important thing. Like all businesses, and especially ours, it's a continuous learning process. I interact with a lot of clients, consignor, I also interact with a lot of our peers. This is where I learn the additional conversation, if you will, so that we can talk about art, we can talk about coffee, we can talk wine with Patrick, talk spirit with you, and our head of the Cuban department, Peter, who also taught me a lot about cigars. So I always believe it's a both-way bi-directional learning process. And it's also time, you know, I'm 60 years old, you're 30 years old, so...
Hey, don't expose my age.
Oh,
Okay, we learned a lot about you, but this is only the first episode. We have more questions for you, Sam. You prepared?
yes.